Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of Glam Metal Gems, number 7 here. So I want to take a deeper look at some bands that ran under the radar, ones that just didn't get given the due at the time. And I think I got a bunch of really good ones today. And so I'm hoping that by shining a light on these things, either you guys are learning by these, other people are figuring these things out, but there's just so many great glam metal bands that flew under the radar. So we're not focusing on the Dawkins, Motley Crue, Rat, Poison, stuff like that. These are other bands that were under the radar and ones that hoping to shine a light on so that maybe you guys can discover them. And I've got 5 of them here to go through with you, and we'll do that in just a minute. But if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. And I would greatly appreciate, of course, if you turn on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on really cool videos just like this with Glam Metal Gems number 7. So let's dive into this, and I like to go in order by year. So first one up, Babylon AD, self-titled release from 1989, out on Arista Records. Great album. Band was actually signed by Clive Davis, a music mogul. So it really shows you the caliber of what kind of music they were in order for him to notice and actually do the signing himself. And they had several radio hits, even though I didn't actually know them at the time. I discovered it later after getting the album. Bingo the Bells, love that song. Hammer Swings Down, actually had a video for that got played occasionally on MTV. And then they actually did the song Desperate. But actually, another band did it. Baton Rouge, sorry, I had to think for a second on that one. Baton Rouge also did Desperate. And I think I knew the song first from Baton Rouge covering it before I found out that it was actually written by Derek Davis from Babylon AD. So that was kind of a cool thing there. Maybe you'll know that. It's an amazing ballad if you don't. But the thing that I actually found the band from was that they did the theme song to the movie RoboCop 2 called The Kid Goes Wild. I walked out of that movie having heard it several times in the movie and then at the end credits, and I was like, who is this band? I've got to find them. Turned out it was Babylon AD, and I never looked back, since then. Now, the band is actually still around today. In fact, they put out their most recent studio album, this one here, which is called Revelation Highway, and it's really good. They're still very similar in sound to that. And then they've got a live album coming out on March 17th. So if you want to get reintegrated with Babylon AD, there's some upcoming stuff, and they're in the studio. So you got all of that to look forward to. All right, next one up, Sweet FA, Stick to Your Guns from 1990. There's the backside. Look at those cool guys there. I always love this. If you find a kind of album like this today, in fact, I didn't know anything about these guys, so I found this band just going through the racks, and you flip it over and you see that look, and it was like I knew they were a glam metal band and I had to check this out. So that's actually how I found this band here. They're produced by Howard Benson, who worked with Bang Tango, South Gang, Child's Play, Tough. He even worked with Motorhead. So again, just showing you the kind of band this is by who that producer is. And producers weren't just strictly assigned, they had to choose to work with the band. So again, showing you their caliber and whatnot. And so, this was just one of those things where I didn't know anything about this, and I actually heard something get played, and it was the song Prince of the City, and it blew me away by just how sleazy the guitar sounded and how powerful the vocals were by Stephen DeLong, the lead vocalist in the group. And I just thought, oh my God, who is this band? And when I saw this album, and again, saw these guys here, I just said, I gotta have it. So definitely worth checking out this band, Sweet FA. If you've never heard of them like me, at the time at least, they're worth checking out. All right, next one up here, Black Eyed Susan, Electric Rattlebone from 1992. There's the backside. This is a reissue of it on Bad Reputation Records. Definitely worth checking out. What's interesting about this, at the time, one and only studio album released. As part of this reissue, though, they did have an unreleased second album called Just a Taste that was just a demo tape that Dizzy Dean Davidson, the lead vocalist, was shopping around, and now it's included here, so you do finally get a second album. Now back to lead vocalist Dizzy Dean Davidson. If you didn't pick up on it, he was the lead vocalist from Britny Fox, so there you go, there he is. Left the band after 2 albums, forming this group here. And if you remember anything about Britny Fox, they had a couple former Cinderella members in the lineup. Well, this band does too. So one of them being Rick Crenity on guitars. Now, he was Cinderella's touring keyboardist from 1986 to 1990. So you've got, Dizzy Dean Davidson, formerly of Britny Fox. You got a former Cinderella guy in here and so forth. The band itself is a little less glam metal than Britny Fox, but focusing on, blues rock like the Rolling Stones and the Faces. But Dizzy Dean Davidson still brings a lot of swagger to the album, kind of for good measure with his vocals and what he does here. And just, I always loved it. It was just a more contemporary modern version of Britny Fox. It's kind of what Britny Fox, I think, would have grown into if he had just stayed in the band. But you get this album instead, and of course you get a really great Britny Fox album with Bite Down Hard. So, it was a win-win at that time, in my opinion. This album here had a semi-hit on it. The song was called None of It Matters. If you don't know it, look it up and check it out. Had a sitar as the lead instrument in it. And you wouldn't think that would work, but it actually works surprisingly well here and totally worth checking out. Okay, on to the next one. Rockhead, self-titled release from 1992. Nothing much on the backside except the songs, but there you go, kind of a cool album cover. Debut and only studio album from these guys, produced by Bob Rock. We all know who he is, having worked with Motley Crue on Dr. Feelgood, going on and doing the Black Album and just a number of other Metallic albums and stuff like that. But not only is he the producer here, but he's in the band. And it wasn't a band that just brought him in. He formed the group, hence the name Rockhead, right? Bob Rock, Rockhead. Makes total sense. So he plays guitar in this group here. And of course, Bob Rock being in the group means that there are going to be a lot of cool guest players and co-writes on songs. So we get Billy Duffy on guitar from The Cult, Richie Sambora on guitar from Bon Jovi, and Apache on guitar from Little Caesar. So, these are all bands and albums that he produced. Bob Rock produced Sonic Temple. He produced Bon Jovi's Keep the Faith, but he also engineered and worked on the album before it, New Jersey, and the debut Little Caesar album. So, that's just, again, showing you the caliber of Bob Rock beyond what we know him for. He did a lot of other great stuff, too, leading up to those famous albums and whatnot. And if you like those 3 albums I just showed you, you like Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood, you want more of that stuff, you've got to check out Rockhead. This is a fantastic album from start to finish that should have exploded. Unfortunately, it was 1992, and probably because his name was so famous by that point, having worked with Motley Crue and Metallica's Black Album. I know a lot of people were like, what, the producer making an album? How silly kind of a thing. But it's definitely worth checking out. I know at the time I passed it over for that reason, and later picked it up in the late 90s when glam metal was just dirt cheap. I could get it for a couple bucks at most record stores. Nobody wanted this stuff, and I stocked up on it. I mean, look at everything that's behind me. It's how I built my collection, back then, just buying up as much of that cool stuff as I could find. And then check out the songs Bed of Roses and Chelsea Rose. Those 2 songs are really, really excellent, examples of what this great album is. All right, and the final album that I want to talk about on here is Wildside, Under the Influence from 1992. This one here being another reissue on the Bad Reputation Records label. So lots of great stuff. These 2 out on there, you can get them now. They've been out of print. This one never had the original, had it back in the day, but got rid of it, unfortunately, like an idiot. And then trying to buy it back, it was through the roof on eBay, but finally has a reissue. So debut album, not their only one. They would release one more album, but completely changed their sound. And it was a grunge album and nothing like this one that's here. This album, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated glam metal era albums. Even though it's from 1992, it just came out a little too late. It should have been huge. It's just ripping with sleaze, and the vocalist on it, Drew Hanna, is amazing. But if it had been released a little bit earlier, the sad thing is that the album was actually completed and ready to come out, I think, around late 1991, and they held it back, which I think unfortunately contributed to this thing just being lost in the shuffle. And of course, with grunge having broken in 1991, so all of it just under the radar. But do yourself a favor, check out this album. And the first track, which was also the lead single, Hang On Lucy, that one is a fabulous one. So there you go, 5 amazing slabs of glam metal gems that flew under the radar. Definitely worth checking out. Consider sharing this video out on social media to help spread the word for all these great bands and albums, and certainly for my channel, I would greatly appreciate it too. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.